D-BOX take one. Okay, what did you think of it? Would you go back?
Yeah, I would go back if it weren't so far away from us.
Oh, I hated it. I really didn't like it. I thought a lot of it was really unnecessary. For example, it was like him zipping up his suitcase or throwing his suitcase on the bed and your chair would shake. And I felt like it was very unnecessary. And if anything, it took me away from the movie because it was just too much.
Yeah, I think they definitely overdid it at certain parts.
I think their concern was they didn't want you to feel like I'm sure it came at a premium if you didn't have A-list, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think their main concern was they were worried that if they didn't use the chair vibration features enough, that people would think that they weren't getting their money's worth.
Yeah, so they had a heavy bias towards action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, during fight scenes, I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
Because it actually seemed appropriate, first of all. And then, if anything, actually added to the experience. But I just thought it was a little unnecessary at times, so I personally didn't really like it from a holistic perspective.
Yeah, it definitely took away from some parts where I noticed that I was in the chair.
Yeah.
That might go away, though, if I did this more than one time. This time, it was very new to me, and it was something to get used to. It broke my sort of involvement in the movie because of that.
What did you think about the different levels? I think there were 4, right? It was nothing, and then 1, 2, 3.
I liked, during the action movies, I liked the highest level, but otherwise, I think if I had to only choose one, I would probably choose level 2.
Yeah, I like level 2, just because for me, during the driving scenes, they also added vibrations, which to me was just stupid because if you've ever ridden in a car, it doesn't vibrate when you drive. More than normal, yeah. And so lots of times on the high setting, especially for like smaller vibrations, it was also almost too sensitive, or the vibrations were too fine. And what it reminded me of is when I was younger and I would go to the arcade and they had those rides where you would just, sit on this reclining chair and it took you through like a roller coaster, but it was like a broken down roller coaster and it would shake, right? But it was that like very fine-tuned shaking that to me felt like it was shaking my earwax out. And that's kind of the same feeling I got with the highest level setting in a lot of the driving scenes, for example, which were unnecessary.
Yeah. With the exception of driving on the dirt road, which happened one time, that actually made sense. When they're driving on asphalt, it's just so funny how they were rumbling you around when it's not a smooth ride.
But something else that started affecting me is they would use the vibrations so often. Like he would, I remember the beginning when he and Aunt May were giving the speech and he would remove his mask and it would vibrate. He would put on his mask. It would vibrate. And in my head, I would just start thinking like, oh, this person's going to jump. It's going to vibrate. Like I started memeing about it in my head because they use it so often that I started being like, oh, are they going to make it vibrate like now? Right?
Yeah, that's right. I noticed that too. When it corresponded to the mask going on and off with nanobots, that's supposed to be like a seamless transition.
Yeah.
And it rumbled. That made no sense to me. Like there was no rumbling even for himself. So yeah, I was like, definitely overdone.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I like the technology. They're just too eager to use it at every opportunity.
That's a good way to put it. I think if during the more, calm dialogue heavy scenes, that's not action based, not intense, they just, put their computers away, didn't mess around with your chairs, it would have been much better. Because I personally would never use D-BOX to see something like Toy Story 3. I don't know if they would show it like a calmer movie in D-BOX because it doesn't seem very fitting. But especially now knowing how they approach calmer scenes with the chairs, it's just something I would not recommend.
Yeah, I think some of the gentler tilting was also okay and enhanced it because, it sort of added to the scene.
Yeah,
and they didn't overuse that specific part. Like they weren't tilting you all around randomly. Just really the rumbling was overdone.
Like the swinging scenes when they like tilted you, I kind of like that. Didn't make you feel sick. It was kind of funny because we were sitting in the second of 3 rows, so we could see the row in front of us, and it was kind of entertaining to watch like everyone's seat tilt and tilt back. But overall, I think it's worth a shot, and I think, you know, to each their own with this. But personally, I wouldn't go super out of your way to, you know, try it out.
Like we did.
Yeah, we went really far out of our way, so that may have also affected the experience.
I think that 3D is probably overall the better like augmentation for the movie. I think that would have added a lot more without causing any nausea. Yeah. But I wonder if they'll ever combine the two, because I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, we also saw the movie in IMAX 3 with lasers, and that was far more enjoyable. I didn't notice the glasses or anything as much as I did when we watched, what was the previous one that we did with IMAX 3D?
I don't remember.
It was another, it was,
Infinity War?
Yeah, no, it was Endgame.
Yeah,
we did Endgame, and I noticed the glasses a little bit more, and but with Spider-Man, it was spot on. I really enjoyed that. But D-BOX was kind of a miss. But granted, we did watch Spider-Man in IMAX 3D before we watched it in D-BOX, so that definitely would affect and bias our reviews.
I will say though that D-BOX is like strictly superior because you can always turn it off, which I think is important.
True. Yeah.
With the exception of if you want to recline your seat, then if you're big on reclining your seat, you can't do that in a D-BOX seat, at least the ones that we were in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Which one would you prefer?
I think for the most part, I would probably choose a D-BOX.
Really?
Yeah, because I can always turn it off or turn it down.
Oh, I meant versus IMAX 3D.
Oh, I would choose IMAX 3D every time because it's just IMAX plus 3D is just an insane combination. It's hard to beat, and like things just come to life in IMAX 3D.
Yeah.
And D-BOX just isn't. It definitely doesn't reach that same level of immersion, and sometimes it can even break you out if it's misused. So
we're also lucky because we live in a city where having A-list makes financial sense, but for lots of people, like for where I grew up in the South, I don't think it would make sense to have A-list. So for D-BOX, how much of a premium would you pay to have, you know, the moving seats over just your plain vanilla traditional movie seats?
The other thing I take into account here is that the D-BOX seats happen to be in really attractive like positions in the theater as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So probably because of that, I would pay, you know, like a 10% premium, but probably not much more than that.
That 10% is pretty low though. Like if a movie ticket's $8, like I don't think they would sell it for $1.
Yeah,
you know?
maybe like 25%.
Okay.
In that case, because it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that, like a 25% premium. Probably more if, you know, you're trying it out for the first time, because that's purely for the experience.
It's really fun. As a first experience, I think it's kind of just something cool to try. So it's definitely worth giving it a shot, especially if you have A-list, then there's no reason not to. But yeah, I think even at the highest setting, it wasn't extreme. Like I don't think people would easily get a headache. Yeah. So I think everyone should try it out. I think it was really fun. Yeah,
but going forward, I think overall I'm indifferent to, you know, selecting a movie time for, you know, the D-BOX add-on. I don't think that would influence, you know, how I plan my movies and schedule my movies going forward, just because in the end I felt like some parts it did break me out from that engagement. Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't mind-blowing, so I wouldn't, on a going-forward basis, like, bend way out of my way to try to get it again.
Yeah.
As a first time, though, it was fun, even driving really far for the first-time experience. I think it was fun.